The news went out last night from NFL media, Ian Rappaport, reporting that a deal was close that would send receiver Antonio Brown from the Steelers to the Bills. Antonio Brown responding on Instagram by saying fake news, and it all went downhill from there. Overnight, plenty of reporters disputing the report that a deal was close. I was told it was never close. Now, here's the problem. When you've got a bunch of different moving parts and you have to placate the Steelers and you have to placate Brown, and maybe it's close between the Steelers and Bills, but it's never close between the Bills and Brown, and it's a huge multi-pronged mess. So the cat got out of the bag prematurely. Bottom line is, Big Cat, we thought we'd spend the entire show talking about what's exactly going on. It was all resolved within the first 5 or 10 minutes of our first hour on NBCSN, second hour on NBC Sports Radio. The idea that the Bills were in it, but now they're not. They've said so themselves. Their GM, Brandon Beane, issued the statement. We inquired about Antonio Brown on Tuesday, kept talks open with the Steelers. We had positive discussions, but ultimately it didn't make sense for either side. As great a player as Antonio Brown is, we have moved on, and our focus is on free agency. So, the Antonio Brown era is over in Buffalo.
It's over. And it's crazy that it was even an era for 5 hours there, whatever it ended up being, 6 hours. Because the minute it broke at 12 o'clock last night and Antonio Brown then got on his Instagram and said fake news, that should have been the sign right there. I know that obviously, guys can maybe not be clued into everything that's going on, but the Steelers, no team is going to trade for Antonio Brown without sitting down with Antonio Brown, talking to his agent, being like, hey, is he going to buy in here? Is he going to be someone who wants to be here? Because we saw what happened last year when he didn't want to be somewhere. So that right there was it. The fake news, when Antonio Brown gets on Instagram and comments fake news, to me that was when this entire deal was dead. Because if Antonio Brown isn't 100% committed to his new team, the new team there's no reason for them to trade for him. None whatsoever. It will only end up hurting them and not helping them.
And I think if Ian Rappaport made any mistake here, because maybe it is true, maybe a deal was close, who knows? There's enough smoke there that maybe there was a flicker of flame somewhere at the bottom of this. But you can't just assume it's like any other trade. It's not like any other trade. Big Cat, you've been all over this notion for a few weeks now. Antonio Brown is acting like a free agent. You can't just assume, oh, hey, the Steelers and the Bills have a deal, so it's done. No, it's not done, not unless Antonio Brown says it's done. So they can be close on compensation between the Steelers and the Bills. That doesn't mean Antonio Brown's on board with it. And most of the reports that have emerged over the last hour have made it clear that that was the sticking point. Brown doesn't want to play for the Bills, period. So the deal's not going to happen. And other than quarterback, what other player in the NFL other than Antonio Brown can stand up and basically say, I've got a no-trade clause, even though he doesn't?
Okay, so now that we're in hour 2, my brain has woken up here, and I'm starting to have some racing thoughts up there in this old noggin of mine. Was this all done by the Steelers to basically anchor the negotiation and say, hey, Antonio Brown, we could send you to the Bills, and you don't want to be on the Bills. So then when it's the Raiders or, I don't know, the Jets, whoever may be the next in line, they already have said the Bills were at least discussed. And now you have to go and put on a smile and say, I want to be here, and do all those things because you had a moment there. There was a moment last night where it was going to be Antonio Brown in Buffalo, kind of scaring him because he doesn't want to be there. And I love the city of Buffalo, so I think Buffalo's getting dragged unfairly here. But it's clear he doesn't want to be there. And the Steelers essentially anchored this negotiation, and now they'll have Antonio Brown go along with whoever they get to the trade table with, and Antonio Brown say the right things and basically be a good trade partner in this entire free agency that he's created out of thin air.
I think you're onto something because, look, they did this kind of thing a couple of years ago. They've softened him up, right? They've scared him with the prospect of sending him to Buffalo. They've backed off even though they don't have to back off. And now when they do trade him to another team, he's going to feel more inclined to say, okay, I'll do it. Because here's what happened back in 2017. Right after the Facebook Live fiasco in the locker room after they beat the Chiefs in the playoffs and right after they lost to the Patriots in the AFC Championship game, there was a stream of negative reports about Antonio Brown at the time. And they were coming from people who are close to the Steelers. I was convinced the Steelers were putting all that out there to make him look bad and basically to scare him a little bit. And then what happens? Within 6 weeks after that, he signs a new contract when there was no reason for him to sign it then. He could have let it play out a little bit more, but I think they softened him up in late January, early February of 2018 or 17 before he took that long-term deal. Same thing going on here. Softening him up, giving him that threat, showing them what they could do if they want to. And now maybe he's going to be more amenable when the time comes to sit down and work out a deal to Oakland or wherever it is. Although, other than Oakland, I don't know what the option is. I don't know what other team wants him unless there's somebody out there that's been lurking that we don't know about.
But now every team, now the Steelers can have Antonio Brown be amenable to every team. He can walk up and say, look, I will play for this team because I don't want to go play in Buffalo. I'll tell you, Mike, it takes an hour for this brain to get going.
But Buffalo's closed now. That's
I know.
If the door to Buffalo is still open, then that's a stronger point. But I like the idea that they use this to kind of scare him as to what they could do. And now that he's played the veto card once, like maybe the next time it's going to be harder for him to say. You can't say no to 7 different teams. You can say no to one. You can't say no to the second one, and you definitely can't say no to the third one.
And there was a moment last night where Antonio Brown was sitting at his house seeing those reports and probably, frantically called his agent and said, am I really going to Buffalo? And so those moments, the next trade partner in line is not going to be as bad as what he thought Buffalo would be. Again, I love the city of Buffalo, and it's unfair what people are saying about Buffalo. But I'll tell you, Mike, it takes an hour for this brain to get warmed up, but when it gets cooking, I just uncovered the entire thing. I just connected all the dots, and I think we're done here, right? That's the show.
So that's just it? We just end it now and have the Mikamoto auction on for the next 50 minutes? All right, here's the question, though. Who does he want to play for? The only team that he has shown any clear inclination or desire to play for is the 49ers, and they're out of this. So where does he want to go? Where do you think? If you were Antonio Brown, who would you want to play for?
Well, so why are the 49ers out of it? Let me ask you that first. They've said they're out of it? Okay.
Well, and of course, it wouldn't be the first time that a general manager or head coach has told us something other than the truth. But let's assume they're out of it. Let's assume they don't want him. Where do they go from here? Where does Brown want to go from here?
Well, I still think I just want to wrap up that San Francisco point, because if Antonio Brown keeps saying he wanted to go to San Francisco and it's the only place he said he wanted to go, wouldn't it make sense for the 49ers to say, no, we're out of it, to try to bring down the trade value? You know what I mean? The Steelers then have to come back to the 49ers and be like, this is the only place he wants to go. Will you do a deal with us? Instead of the 49ers saying, oh, let's go do a deal, let's give him everything, and the Steelers have the upper hand with that negotiation. I think he wants to go to a quarterback that is going, as much as he bashed Big Ben, I think he wants a quarterback that is established and he knows will be good. And so I wonder about the Raiders. I don't know if I think he could be sold on the Raiders because John Gruden has been so nice in his praise for Antonio Brown. But I honestly think he does want to play for the Patriots. He will not play for the Patriots, but that's where he wants to go. I wouldn't be shocked if he wants to go. He throw out all the good quarterbacks in the NFL. He wants to go there, and he's not gonna get to pick, like you said. He's not gonna get to pick every single spot here. He said no to Buffalo or however it went down, but the next one he's gonna have to say yes to. I'm saying though, I think the 49ers. I think you're taking that for face value. I feel like the 49ers are also playing a little game here.
John Lynch, the GM of the 49ers, said last week that the team never inquired about Antonio Brown. Kyle Shanahan has said that they're not interested in Brown. But you're right. Maybe the way they're trying to set this up, maybe this is the ultimate game of poker between the 49ers and the Steelers, that the 49ers wait for the Steelers to call them and say, is there anything you can do here? I mean, we can't find a trade partner, and this is the only team he'll say yes to. Will you take this guy, and what will you give us for him? So that's a possibility, but that runs counter to the idea that they are trying to scare him straight by almost trading him to Buffalo, and now they can unload him on another team, whoever that other team may be. But I don't know. Other than the Raiders, I don't know who makes sense if the 49ers aren't in it. And Sims yesterday on the program, and he's close with Kyle Shanahan, and he made it clear that he hasn't talked to Shanahan about this, But his explanation was, look, Shanahan's got bigger fish to fry. He was 10-22 his first 2 seasons. He doesn't need to throw in this Antonio Brown wild card at a time they're trying to figure out how to keep guys healthy, how to win some games, how to compete in the NFC West. Of course, the response would be, well, if you have Antonio Brown at 100% capacity, that's going to help you compete in the NFC West. So, I don't know, maybe they should revisit their lack of interest now that it looks like this thing's starting to go down the drain for the Steelers.
All right, so I've thrown out a couple different names in hour one. I threw out the Browns. I threw out the Bears. Let me throw one more out there. It's the state he went to college in, the Detroit Lions. Wouldn't you think they would make a call? Because Matt Patricia's sitting there saying, year one didn't go so well. We know what Matt Stafford can be with an elite wide receiver, Calvin Johnson and what he did with him. Why wouldn't we go try to make a splash with Antonio Brown, reinvigorate this entire, fan base with a splash like that in the trade market, and then have Matt Patricia focus on the defense and Matt Stafford and Antonio Brown be able to light up the scoreboard? I don't think it would work, but it's an interesting name to throw out there. And I also love the Big J journalist thing to do is to pick where he went to college or where he went to high school and then just assume he's going to go to the NFL team that's closest to that.
Well, and here's the thing about the Lions, and I like that. And I'd be lying if I said I haven't done that from time to time. The Lions are trying to instill that Patriot way between Bob Quinn, the GM, who used to be with the Patriots, and Matt Patricia, who was with the Patriots for 15 years. And the thing about the culture they're trying to instill there, and it's the same as New England, you have to check your ego, your individuality, your inclination to maybe not be on time. All those things have to be forgotten. And I don't know that Antonio Brown is ready to change. He said within the past week or so, they got to play by my rules. So I know when Chad Johnson played for the Patriots, they tried to strip away who he was, and it made him less of a player, and he was willing to do it at that point in his career. I don't know that Antonio Brown is ready to have that fundamental change into who he is, and I think it would be too much of a shock for him in New England or in Detroit. He just doesn't realize it. Even if he wants to play for the Patriots, he doesn't realize what it would be like and how it would fundamentally change him. So I don't think the Lions want him. I know the Patriots don't want him. And, the question is, who wants him and who does he want? It may be a very small universe of teams, and there's still this possibility, Big Cat, that the Steelers wake up and say, you know what? We're just keeping this guy. And, Antonio, you can either play for us or play for no one. And if you choose to retire, we'll take that $11.4 million in signing bonus money we've given you that you haven't earned yet. And by rule, you have to give it back to us if you choose not to play.
It's a good point. Eventually, one of these deals will not be good enough, and the Steelers are not going to just take any old deal, right? I mean, what do we think the going rate is right now for Antonio Brown? What has been the rumored compensation? Because I could see it, like you just said, the Steelers get to a point where, like, we're not going to trade this guy. We can't trade him for what you're offering, and we'd rather just deal with it and try to get him back out on the field for us than trade him for absolutely nothing to someone else.
Yeah, if it was just 3 years, $39 million, which is what's left on his contract, none of it's guaranteed, that's an attractive contract. But he's made it clear he wants a new contract. He wants guaranteed money. The market now is around $17 million per year for receivers. He's going to want something that you can massage the numbers, and we're getting very close to the time of year where there's plenty of number massaging and new money and average per year and all this stuff where you can say, I've got the best contract of any receiver in football. He's going to want to be able to say that with a straight face. So we're looking at a significant raise that someone's going to have to commit, significant guaranteed money that someone's going to have to commit. And I don't know who out there is willing to give something significant to the Steelers, give something significant to Brown, and run the risk that this guy is going to continue to be the same pain in the butt he's been for the Steelers for the last however long it's been. We don't know how long it's been. We just know it all came to a head the last few months. So that's what makes it, and I've always thought this is going to be a difficult deal to do. And I think the one thing we've learned over the last 9 hours of real time, this is going to be, Big Cat, a difficult deal to do.
Yeah, and you just showed that graphic. If a team offers a third-round pick for Antonio Brown, why would the Steelers say yeah? Like, what would be, I don't know, a third-round pick's okay, but Antonio Brown is a Pro Bowl receiver. They got a third-round pick from Martavis Bryant.
Think about this. They got a third-round pick from Martavis Bryant.
And Antonio Brown is, at some point, the Steelers might just sit him down and say, listen, you did this to yourself. Because what you did was you went public with everything. You went on Instagram Live. You didn't show up for Week 17. You basically cut us off at the knees for any future negotiation. We can't get the value back for you that we expect a player of your caliber. And they just say, listen, you did it yourself, so either you play for us or you don't play at all, because we're not going to trade you for a third-round pick.
All right, we got to take a break. We're over time here. There's one little wild card in all this, though, and I have a feeling, I don't know this, I have a feeling Ben Roethlisberger's already made it clear to the Steelers it's either him or me next year, which I think is another reason why the Steelers are so anxious to get this done.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.